Why, hello, my loves, and welcome back to Spook Manor. Are you here for another romantic tale that haunts of eternal love? Well, I have quite the grave one for you. It is the story of an impatient man who gets more than he bargained for at a small party when he catches the eye of a beautiful young stranger in white. Would you care to join me as we dance along the roadway to our final destination? Then let's begin. It is early fall in the great state of Illinois where Matt finds himself standing alone outside of a banquet hall. He is in the small town of Justice, which is only a few miles southwest of Chicago, attending his sister's wedding. The wedding is in a 1920s speakeasy theme, and all of the guests are required to dress the part. Styled in retro mobster attire, Matt hated being in costume and much preferred the nightlife to the big city than these small-scale events. Being in his early 30s and very successful, his mind was filled with all of the other places he would rather be tonight. But he was here out of respect to his family and went along with a smile, silently counting the minutes for the party to end. As the drinks flowed and loved ones became more and more comfortable in openly critiquing their relatives, Matt stealthily slipped out the door to avoid getting caught up in any potential family drama. Matt stood under the awning, smoking a cigarette at the far end and eyeing the night sky which threatened of rain on this cool autumn night. Muffled jazzy music blared from inside the building, and a cool breeze brushed past his cheeks. Just as he relaxed with a deep inhale, the heavy Art Deco-inspired doors swung open, and a beautiful young woman stepped out, giggling as though she were talking to someone inside. Matt had not noticed her at the wedding and wondered how he could have possibly missed her. She was a gorgeous little thing who appeared to be around 19 in age, with large blue eyes and blonde bobbed hair. She fit the wedding theme perfectly. Her white party dress was strikingly authentic in style, all the way down to her dainty shoes and beaded clutch purse. She was clearly intoxicated, though not excessively, and smiled at Matt while she continued to talk with someone who was on the other side of the door. Though he could not see who it was, he thought he had heard her say that her name was Mary. He played it cool and watched her gracefully allow the door to close behind her, and with a friendly smile, she began to walk towards him. Pulling out a long-stem cigarette holder from her purse, she casually asked him for a light. The cigarette holder was elaborately engraved in classic 1920s industrial patterns. Matt was impressed and asked her where she got it in hopes of continuing a conversation. "It was a gift from my mother for my 18th birthday. I believe it was 1926, she replied with a smooth feminine voice. "Wow, it's that old, huh?" Matt asked in surprise. Mary looked at him with a soft smile and an air of confusion on her delicate face. A conversation ensued, and they were hitting it off seamlessly. Entranced by her beauty, Matt soon asked her for a dance, and they moved across the marble floor as though they were the only ones in this crowded room. They gazed into each other's eyes dreamily, and Matt could not pull himself away. Despite the activity, Mary's hands and bodies remained cool to the touch, but this was easy to ignore when he saw the heat shining through her hypnotic crystal blue eyes. Hours had passed, and they were both drinking a good sum of champagne from his glass. When his sister approached him for a short conversation, Mary respectfully excused herself to the restroom before his sister had a chance to reach them. When Mary returned, she looked a bit upset and disgruntled. She told him that she needed to leave because her ex was here trying to cause problems. Matt puffed up in a protective manner and stated that her ex wouldn't be giving her any trouble with him around. When he questioned who her ex was, she made a hasty retreat. She moved so suddenly that it seemed as though she had disappeared into thin air. Looking about the party, Matt finally saw her as she glanced back at him while slipping out the door, and he ran after her. Stepping outside, he stared off into the darkness of the parking lot. The ominous night sky was now beginning to sprinkle cold drops of rain. A misty fog flowed about the ground, and the chilly air was filled with a foreboding silence. He ran to the roadway and looked to the left. There she was, walking quickly down the street and trying to wave down an approaching vehicle. The car nearly struck her as the driver passed at high speed. Matt wondered to himself how she was able to get that far down the road so quickly, and feared that she would be hit by a motorist in her inebriated state. Matt made a mad dash to his car and took off down Archer Avenue in Mary's direction. He felt responsible for her and was determined to make sure she would make it home safe. Mary was waving him down with a hitchhiker thumb as he approached. Pulling up beside her, he casually rolled down the passenger window and made his case for giving her a ride. Mary looked sheepish as she agreed, and Matt jumped out to open the door for her. She was so elegant the way she moved. It was the kind of grace you would expect to see in an old Hollywood movie. Mary stated that she lived just up the road and thanked him for his kindness. He asked her if there was a chance they could see each other again, and Mary joyfully said that there is plenty of space for him at her home if he would like to stay there with her, adding that the place is so beautiful. People come from all over to see it. Her place is so comfortable that people who come for a rest usually end up staying forever. Matt laughed, stating that his Chicago apartment is a lot like that too. Guests never want to leave. Slowly they rolled up to a cemetery. Mary casually told him to stop and that this is her home. Matt looked around but didn't see a place fitting of Mary's description. As Matt continued to look through the darkness for Mary's home, she softly stated, "Thank you for the ride." Matt broke off as he turned to look at her, but Mary was gone. Matt jumped out of the car and looked down the street in search of her, but Mary was nowhere in sight. It was as though she had completely vanished, disappearing into the night like an owl in flight. Matt was perplexed. He never even heard her open or close the door at all. Matt continued to look around for about 15 minutes before he decided to get back in his car and began calculating the situation. After sitting for another 5 minutes in disappointment, wondering what he could have possibly done wrong, he finally decided to restart his car and return to the wedding party before everyone had left. He walked inside the banquet hall and looked around at the few guests that remained. The evening was late, and most of the party had dissipated by this point. Matt walked over to his sister and asked who Mary was. She looked confused at the name, and grew even more so when he provided her description. And when asked, the groom didn't know who Mary was either. Matt pointed out that he was dancing with the woman all night, and was surprised that they hadn't noticed, as this was out of character for him. Both the bride and groom looked surprised, stating that they did notice him dancing alone and thought that he simply had too much to drink. Matt was less than pleased to hear this and went about asking the remaining guests and employees if they had seen her. They all responded exactly the same as the bride and groom had, that Matt was simply dancing and drinking alone, as though the beautiful Mary was never there. Flabbergasted, Matt went over to the bar for a stiff drink. The bartender smirked at him and said, "Don't feel too bad. Resurrection Mary does this to everyone." Matt became excited. He knew he wasn't crazy and was hopeful to get more information about the woman. But he should have just left it there. He should have just let it go. But nope. He had to know more. "She's a ghost," the bartender stated casually before continuing. "Legend has it she was at a ball in the 1930s and broke up with her boyfriend. Mary decided to walk home down Archer Avenue and began hitchhiking for a ride. Rumor has it that she was struck by a hit and run or died in a car accident, and it is said that they never found the person who killed her. It's debatable who she actually was, but some researchers believe she is buried in the graveyard at Resurrection Cemetery just up the road. That's how she got her name, Resurrection Mary. You don't have to believe me, but lots of people have seen her over the years. They always tell the same story, that she disappears when you take her home to the cemetery. She really likes to upset taxi drivers. Apparently ghosts aren't too good about paying their fare. Don't feel too bad, my friend. You aren't the first to have seen her, and you certainly won't be the last." Matt sat in a long silence before getting up and making the grueling drive back to Chicago. He needed time to think about their conversation, and it gave him chills as he recounted her generous offer, that there is plenty of space for him at her place if he would like to stay there with her. A place so comfortable that most people who come for a rest usually end up staying forever. So tell me, my loves, have you been to Resurrection Cemetery? What would you do if you gave a beautiful woman a ghostly ride, only to find that she disappears when you reach your final destination? Please comment down below. and like and subscribe for more fictional stories that are often of actual urban legends and sometimes have historical reference. See you next week and have a good night.